So I'm going to talk about the conditional scheduling in decentralized world. At the beginning, I wanted to ask a quick question. Is anyone here familiar with the Ethereum alarm clock, maybe? Can you raise your hand? Okay, 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay, so Ethereum alarm clock was about the normal scheduling. We are on mainnet. We transferred more than 1,000 ETH. This project has been started by Piper Merriam from the Ethereum Foundation. So it's now on mainnet, but we want to create something better. That's why the conditional schedule. So here we have a tweet from Elon. You might recognize this guy. It's not an actually real tweet though, but you know, he's asking like, what is conditional scheduling? And you know, we can forgive him. He's busy with his SpaceX stuff and Tesla, so we will explain it to him. So basically, conditional scheduling is, if you guys are familiar with programming, is basically you want to do something when the condition is met. So this is basically this first thing here. If on-chain condition is met, then send transaction. And by the Chronologic, what we also mean with conditional scheduling is because we are in this decentralized space, especially Ethereum, is we want it to be decentralized, trustless, open for anyone. So yeah, we have a smart contract that guard the condition. The condition needs to be on-chain at this moment. And as well, to incentivize participation in the markets, this is powered by execution market, which is another interesting concept because it allows anyone to just get the money by participating in the market. So let me give you an example. So example is decentralized stop-loss mechanism, and this is possible. For example, if you have a 0x exchange, and our Chronos protocol, which is actually now it's very much research. We had a POC done on this, but yeah, it is possible to create a decentralized stop-loss mechanism, and it has some limitations. Some limitations are because of like signing messages, so you cannot do this on every exchange. But for example, with 0x you can, because they in 0x V2 they allow for really interesting stuff. Other limitation would be also in terms of current exchanges. Not all exchanges allow to like take orders by parameters, just by ID. So if you schedule, you cannot really schedule, like for example, if you want to create a stop loss, you don't know ahead of time what orders are going to be there, and that's a problem. But it's architecture of an exchange basically. So here you would schedule a transaction. You would deploy possibly a scheduled transaction contract with like can execute method, which would just be like a smart contract method. And for example, it can check the price of Ether. If we already have some price oracles, or we already have some price feeds on chain, like from Maker, or for example, Melonport has their price feeds on chain, so you can leverage that data and create a decentralized stop loss. And we actually won a hackathon in Switzerland, and we also met Andrei Sobol there, who's going to speak in a few hours at this conference. Just to give you a quick info, Melonport, they are doing decentralized asset management, like this decentralized funds. So currently you can like give money to some guy who is creating a fund, and he's going to invest your money, and they are doing this in decentralized way. That's why we came up with the concept of creating a stop loss for their funds, and that's why then we researched how 0x is built and all this stuff. So what is it useful for? As I said, decentralized stop loss, this is one. Second, I don't know if you're familiar, so maybe I'll ask another question. Who's here familiar with dead man's switch? And Two people? Okay. So Deadman Switch is this really, really interesting concept that it's basically like a safety switch that you have one wallet and you have some funds on it, and you create and you have like a second wallet that when there will be no activity on a first wallet, for example, for like 6 months, then you will be able to allow to transfer funds to the second wallet, this second predefined wallet, but just when there's like no activity for like these 6 months. So if you lose keys to your first wallet, then you can still like restore this money. So this could be made automatic with the Chronos protocol, because you can just like create on-chain condition for that it's going to be automatically called. So in case you even like forget about this, because you know it can be like 10 years what could be this Deadman switch, and yeah, it will work. You will get your funds. Next thing what we have here is automatic maintenance of protocols, and this could be everything. This could be distributing tokens, and if we have these decentralized organizations, if we have other protocols, there's always some maintenance to be done. Maybe, so previous presentation was Dragonerium, right? So maybe even in case of such application, you have a need to do some stuff periodically that you have to manually call this stuff, but you could automate this. You could have a bot to play blockchain games, maybe especially these FOMO 3D type of games, where you just schedule transaction, and when there's like, when someone outbids you, for example, then you enter again, and someone else is doing this for you. You can basically just do anything in a process. You can just rest and schedule this transaction before. Because the problem is we really don't have scheduling natively on Ethereum. It was when we talked to Vitalik, and he said that it was considered in the early stages of Ethereum, but they didn't want to put it there because there was already like lots of stuff that was going into it, and yeah, that's what we aim to solve. Basically, that you can schedule transactions on Ethereum in a decentralized, trustless way. Another thing is basically, and do something when certain condition is met. So if you guys are developers, then you probably know you can do basically everything. Okay, yeah, so we have 3 things here, 3 parts: smart contracts, execution market, and off-chain clients. Smart contracts, so the guarding condition is the on-chain condition. It's in a smart contract. Also, smart contract is responsible for paying the bounty. Ideally, smart contracts would be just value deposits, and the scheduling would be done off-chain. But for this, it would reduce costs, the gas cost, but it would pose its own challenges. So, yeah, like creating own consensus between the executing agents. So the example of this is when you, with the Ethereum Alarm Clock, which is like version 1, and the conditional scheduling is like version 2. So with the Ethereum Alarm Clock, you create like a scheduled transaction contract, which you can execute it only when certain block or time is met. And this is already on mainnet. And in case of off-chain, then you would create like a proxy wallet, and then you like sign transaction, and then someone can just execute your transaction and get a bounty, like the executing agent. So we have the execution market. Basically means anyone. So for the Ethereum Alarm Clock, you can like today on the mainnet just download our this is called time node, and execute other people's transactions, because they schedule transactions, like they want transaction to happen like tomorrow at 3 p.m. And you can download the time node, set it up, and you will execute their transaction, and you will get like a reward for each transaction. that you execute on their behalf. So yeah, it's open, decentralized. It's a perfect competition because we have people who schedule transactions, and on the other side we have people who want to execute these transactions because they get a reward from the people who schedule. But even with these execution markets, there are some problems currently because execution market is not unique to what we are building. This is something that is useful, could be useful for the whole ecosystem. And there are some standards like there's, for example, EIP 1077, which is really interesting about executable signed message, which could make the onboarding of users way easier. So I remember today during some presentation there was people mentioned that you have these pop-ups when you need to sign each transaction when you play Dragonirium in other apps. But you could for example, if you are application owner, you could, for example, pay gas costs for your users in specific cases, and maybe at the beginning they wouldn't need to sign any transactions at all. Maybe they wouldn't even need to know they have a wallet. This is a concept that Origin protocol was mentioning. For example, if you create decentralized Airbnb, that maybe at the beginning you would like to pay the gas cost for your hosts. So when they put some homes on decentralized Airbnb, they wouldn't even know they interact with the blockchain. So yeah, there's also bounty representation. This could be Ether. So in the case of Ethereum alarm clock on mainnet, it's now Ether, but it could be maybe tokens, maybe some other stuff. So yeah, there are some standards that the community has to agree on. We have coordinations of executing agents. So someone schedules a transaction, and then you need to pick who's going to execute these transactions. And currently in Ethereum alarm clock on mainnet, we have this problem that there are race conditions, which means many people try to execute, only one person gets a reward. This is not ideal, and currently I think we came up to conclusion that we would need to build our own consensus between the executing agents on who's going to execute the transaction when we were building the second version of protocol, but definitely coordination is needed. We also had implementations of priority queue, stake-based on chain, but it's very costly. It's a lot of mathematics going on there, so yeah, not the perfect solution. We have a time node, which is our executing agent, and we call this time node. It's basically implemented in TypeScript now. Anyone can run it. You just set it up with your wallet. You can get rewards for executing other people's transactions. It basically watches the blockchain for new contracts that are deployed and tries to execute them. And yeah, we already have our community is running the nodes, the time nodes, but anyone can do it. And yeah, you basically get a bounties. And this last point here, that in future executing agents could be run as a plugins to Ethereum clients. Currently, there's this new Python client developed on Ethereum, and there's a concept of plugins that is going probably to be worked into it at some point. And I can easily imagine a situation where you not only, when you're interested in making profit, for example, on Ethereum, you not only run the mining process itself or staking, but you also run executing agents in addition to it. And you get rewards from staking or proof of work, and you also get rewards for relaying other people's transactions. So this seems like this is one of the ways how the future could look like for making profit on Ethereum. And so yeah, now let's get a bit more technical. So we have we propose this to 0x, and this is basically how you can automate trade on 0x. And this could be done if you create like a proxy wallet and you schedule a transaction, and this scheduled transaction address is whitelisted in the proxy wallet that it can access your funds. And with 0x version 2, you have multiple ways of validating, of signing orders. Because if you put, when you have off-chain order book, like on 0x, which is maintained by their relayers, then you need to send them order, which is like the parameters of the order in raw version, and as well the signature. It needs to be signed by you, right? So 0x in version 2 allows for signing this via call to external approved contract, which is really interesting. Because you can do stuff like this, like decentralized stop loss, basically. So we extended the 0x validator, and we did something like this, where we have this like we have improvement proposal on GitHub open, and we also have a repository with tests that to show that it can work, because it's not on mainnet, it's not production ready yet. But you basically sign the scheduled transaction order, you sign the order itself, and then someone else will be able to execute it for you when the can execute will return true at the end. So when the condition will be met. So for example, when the Ethereum price drops or some asset price to other asset will drop, it's really like trustless and decentralized scheduling. So if some protocol really needs this, because you can create centralized schedulers, you can have your own server doing that, you can do it on your own computer, but someone needs to trust you, you are subject to power shortages, internet shortages, all this stuff. So if we really want to build the web that is unstoppable, then maybe it's not the way to run everything in a centralized way, or lots of infrastructure. That's why I also liked today's presentations about building the decentralized browser and all this stuff, because if we have censorship like in some countries, then the centralized versions fail, but decentralized may still work. So it's really good. We have open problems, which is transaction collisions. At this moment, this is for the version 1, which is ready on mainnet. And yeah, it basically means people can lose money if you're not the first one to win. We have miner front running. They can claim transactions before anyone else does, because they are miners. So, but it's really big problem in whole Ethereum. Then we have gas price, which is basically when you schedule transaction, you also need to put refund for the gas as well as the reward. So the problem is you can't really predict the future gas price on Ethereum, so it's problematic. But what we've been experimenting and playing with is it's creating like a gas price options market that you could basically pay someone like 1 Ether or an arbitrary price, and they agree to execute your transactions, whatever the gas price is going to be for like the next month. So if you are like corporate or some enterprise, these big companies really like to know, have calculated predictable, for everything to be predictable in like next months. And now when the gas price tomorrow will go to like 100 or something, then it's not really predictable for them. So this creates like a more stable something that you can trust if you buy on this gas options market. This is obviously not ready yet, but this is one of the ideas that we can see in the future. Another thing, if we would go with the off-chain scheduling, is proof of execution, which means we only want to pay bounty if someone really executed this transaction. And this is also not trivial, and we come to conclusion that to schedule transactions on Ethereum, to do like this off-chain, in off-chain way, you basically need to build another blockchain for that. So I wanted also to mention, just before I end, Ethereum alarm clock, which is already on mainnet, transferred more than 1,100 ETH. You can use it today. We are integrated in my crypto wallet. If you have a need to schedule transactions at some point in time, then you can do it. For example, if something starts in the night, maybe some, I don't know, new dragon is coming up, or at 2 a.m. In the morning, then you might want to schedule it and then go to sleep. So, yep. I really encourage you to try it. Just you can go to mycrypto.com and press send later button. And so yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, then I'm open.
Any questions, any potential questions? Please, if there are any, make sure you voice them in English. Oh no, there is interpretation going on. So definitely, yeah, they can come in Russian. Toля wants to ask a question. Make sure that Daniel has a earpiece. Нет, Даниэлу надо приемничек забрать, принесите ему его приемник, он сухом лежит на его месте. Half a second, the receiver is coming. Yeah. You're supposed to wait until the receiver arrives to Daniel and is inserted into his ear. You were supposed to have them on you at all times. I can I now? Right, thank you for the presentation. Could you please tell me, I may have failed to understand something, but is it possible, with time node, is it possible to event trigger, to implement an event trigger? Like, for example, sending of another transaction, that TRN will be a trigger. If yes, what is the minimal trigger you can implement? What time can it start with?
Okay. I'm not sure if I understood your question, but
I can rephrase.
Okay. Did you ask if the transactions can be triggered by events?
Events that are connected with another transaction. For example, if someone wants to stole my funds from my wallet, and he make a transaction from my wallet, and then I sent a reverting transaction. So like that. Is it clear or?
Yeah, the question is clear. I'm thinking. I mean, so we want to have the conditional scheduling. So if there would be an event of a transfer, and there would be any way that you can access, if you can see that something bad is, you could trigger by events, but in your question, if you want to get the funds back from other wallet, then you need to have the private key, right? And this is a big problem.
Хорошо, спасибо. Thank you.
Thank you.
Еще вопросы? У Валеры вопрос есть. Да.
Thank you for your presentation, talk. Really appreciate it. Question is, when may I schedule transaction, and may this transaction grab data in future? So, for just simple example, I am putting Dragon to Gladiator battle, and I would like to automatically start Gladiator battle, the first Dragon which somebody put first to my battle. So, but I don't know the right now number of this Dragon, and may I schedule transaction which grab data from contract and then executes after that?
Yeah, I think it is, because when you do conditional scheduling, then it's just a method on a contract you call that returns true or false. And if you have a way to, like, you know that this method now returns like undefined, but later when some dragon shows, then it returns like its name or something, and you have any condition that you want to check, for example, if this is like any string, then if someone came, then you could definitely execute a transaction, like schedule such transaction and execute.
Okay, got it. And one more question. How the process of time node setup looks like now?
Time node setup. Okay, so you download our two ways, but you download our Electron app, or you go to our page and you upload a Keystore wallet. So it's better to do it offline, obviously. And then at this moment, we want you to like sign a transaction with a wallet that has 333 day. And then it basically, it works. You just press start, it watches blockchain. You need to have some Ether, and you can configure the profitability of the transactions and all this stuff.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. Huh?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for the talk. I think the problem of the gas price is pretty interesting. Of the like future gas price, because the transaction is going to be executed, but I don't know what gas price should I put there. Did I understand it correctly? Like you were saying that, for example, I can defer to someone and I can pay them in advance. Should I like take it more like an insurance or something like that? Because like there's a chance that I will pay them in advance 1 Ether, but the gas price will be so crazy that they will have to pay even more.
Yeah, that's why you can expect they will raise prices. Like it may be actually like more expensive to do, because they want to have this safety threshold. I'm not saying it's ready yet, but it's definitely research, and we are not the ones who came up with this idea, obviously. But this is something really interesting to buy options for gas. Sounds really good.
Cool, thanks.
No further questions, I gather. Okay, a round of applause to Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.